My sister has severe autism, and I've grown to resent her for completely upending my life. I hate her. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but right now it feels true. From the moment she was born, it was as if I stopped existing in my parents' eyes. I was 6 years old, thrilled at the idea of becoming a big sister, but that joy disappeared quickly. The change happened slowly, yet it was impossible to ignore. Before long, I was moved down to the basement so she could stay closer to Mom and Dad. That stung deeply. The basement felt dark and chilly, and I missed the comfort of being near my family. The nights there felt endless and isolating. I could hear everyone else upstairs, and it made me feel completely shut out, like I had become an afterthought rather than a daughter. Losing my toys to her was another painful blow. She never meant to destroy them, but it happened constantly. I tried telling my parents how much it upset me, hoping for some understanding or fairness. Instead, all I heard was that she was younger and didn't know any better. "You're the older sister, you need to be more patient." It seemed so unjust. Those toys were my only escape, and watching them get ruined without anyone showing concern just deepened the sense that I was invisible. The MacBook incident was the final breaking point. My school had given it to me as a reward for my good performance, but one day it was completely wrecked. The school blamed me for being careless, and my parents piled on with the same accusations. No one even considered that it wasn't my fault. I was angry and heartbroken, but mostly I felt completely alone in handling the situation. It wasn't really about the laptop. It was about realizing that nobody was on my side. Trying to juggle being a sister while still having my own life has been incredibly difficult. I do love my sister, but it often feels like my parents forget I'm still a child too. Whenever she needs anything, I'm expected to drop whatever I'm doing, whether I'm studying, spending time with friends, or simply trying to rest. It's like I'm on duty around the clock without ever agreeing to it. I can't even remember the last time I went out with friends without constantly checking my phone, anxious that I'd get a call demanding I come home immediately. My life started to feel like it was permanently on hold, always waiting for the next emergency or request for help. The day I decided to go see the new Spider-Man movie was a rare moment of excitement for me. It had been so long since I'd made plans just for myself. My friend Jake had been talking about the film for weeks, and his enthusiasm rubbed off on me. I desperately needed that short escape, just a couple of hours where I could act like a normal teenager instead of a caregiver. So I made up my mind. For once, I would turn my phone off and fully enjoy the movie without worrying. Just 2 hours, that was all. When I walked out of the theater and switched my phone back on, it felt like a heavy blow. There were missed calls and messages everywhere. I called home right away, and the happiness from the movie vanished with every ring. When my mom answered, her voice was filled with rage. "Where have you been?" "We needed you an hour ago." I could hardly speak. I rushed home, feeling both guilty and frustrated. The moment I stepped inside, I entered a storm of anger. My parents were furious, their disappointment hanging heavily in the air. "We depend on you, and you just vanished to watch a movie." My dad's tone was sharp, his words cutting through the background sounds my sister was making, as if going to a movie was some terrible offense. I tried to explain that I only wanted a short break, that I needed a little time for myself, but they wouldn't listen. "Your responsibilities at home are more important than some movie," my mom said firmly. They grounded me and called me irresponsible, all because of a movie. Later, sitting alone in my room, it became clear to me. This wasn't truly about the movie. It was about feeling trapped. Yes, I understood that my sister needed support, but sometimes I just wanted to do something ordinary without guilt or punishment. Being 18 and feeling like you're not allowed to have your own life is incredibly hard. It was about being stuck in a role I never asked for and craving normal teenage experiences that seemed out of reach. I love my sister, but in that moment I felt robbed of simple joys like spending time with friends or enjoying carefree moments. Life at home started to feel like an endless cycle where everything centered around my sister's needs. Don't misunderstand me. I know she requires a lot of attention, and I want to support her. But at times it seems like I'm just another tool in the family's checklist. Help your sister, make sure she's fine. Can't you see we're busy with her? It's draining to feel more like an extra pair of hands than a real family member. This constant weight has made me doubt my own value. Living in that house feels suffocating, as if I'm only noticed when they need something for her. Then there was one week that briefly seemed different. I had been selected to deliver a speech at a school event. That recognition gave me a rare spark of excitement. I spent many nights carefully preparing my speech, putting my heart into every line. When my parents said they would attend, I felt truly valued for the first time in ages. Finally, something was about me. I imagined looking out and seeing them in the audience, smiling with pride. That anticipation became a bright spot in my otherwise dull routine. Maybe this time would be different, but it was. They missed the event because of an issue with my sister. Once again, she became the reason. Standing there ready to begin my speech and not seeing them in the crowd shattered me. I delivered it anyway, my voice shaking and my hands unsteady. I cried not just from nerves, but from all the times I had been pushed aside. People applauded, yet it felt hollow. On the walk home, the tears wouldn't stop. I didn't want to make it a huge issue, but it struck me deeply. It was another painful reminder that my achievements would always come second. Talking with my dad about college had been something I was really looking forward to. At first, the conversation felt normal and hopeful. I was genuinely excited, imagining college as my chance to finally break free and focus on my own path. We were browsing brochures, discussing different majors and campuses. It was the closest I had come to dreaming in a long time. Then my dad made a casual joke about choosing a high-paying major so I could support my sister after they were gone. He laughed, thinking it was harmless, but it hit me like a punch. All my suppressed emotions suddenly erupted. I started crying and then shouting, telling him how unfair it was that my entire future seemed planned around being my sister's caregiver. I poured out every bit of resentment, all the sacrifices, all the times I felt ignored and unimportant. I tried to make him understand how everything always circled back to her needs. But they didn't seem to grasp it. My parents just stood there, looking at me as if I were speaking a foreign language. There was no comfort, no apology, nothing. Their expressions stayed cold and distant, as though they couldn't comprehend why I was so upset over a simple joke. That's when it became clear they weren't going to listen. I ran to my room, slammed the door, and stayed there. Hours passed, and they never came to check on me. Not a single knock or word. It was as if my breakdown didn't matter at all. Sitting there alone, I realized that even my pain wasn't enough to make them see how much I was hurting. It felt like I was locked into a role they had assigned me, and my feelings about it were irrelevant. Am I wrong for wanting more than this? For wanting to be seen as someone beyond a future caretaker for my sister? It seemed like no matter what I achieved, my own life held no real importance. I was nothing to them, just a safety net for my sister once they were gone. After hours turned into a full day and then another, with no contact from my parents, something inside me shifted. I knew things had to change. It wasn't only about getting away temporarily. I needed space to sort out my own life without constantly being pulled back. I thought of the one person who had always seemed to understand, Grandpa. Without overthinking it, I packed a few essential things into a backpack one night and left. I texted him that I was on my way, half expecting him to discourage me or contact my parents. But he didn't. He simply replied, "Doors open." Staying with Grandpa has been a real eye-opener. It hasn't been filled with constant deep conversations, but the atmosphere is peaceful. He gives me space to just exist. We've talked about college and my interests, and it's the first time in years I've been able to consider my future without guilt or pressure. He's encouraged me to focus on what I actually want, not what I feel forced to do. In just 1 week here, I've felt more like myself than I have in a very long time. We've shared meals, watched classic movies, and he's told me stories from his own youth. It's been simple, calm, and surprisingly liberating. I've even begun looking at colleges again, this time focusing on programs that genuinely interest me, not just those that would pay enough to care for my sister later. Being here has shown me what that freedom could look like, and I want to keep it. Wow, thank you everyone for all the kind words and support. I never imagined this post would get so much attention. Thank you so much. After reflecting on everything these past few hours, I realize I don't actually despise my sister. It's not her fault she was born this way. My parents came to speak with me sometime after my breakdown, but I couldn't bring myself to talk. I only cried and asked them to leave. They have arranged with my grandfather for me to stay with him for now. My parents want to talk, but we've agreed it's better for me to have some distance and time to gather my thoughts. We'll sit down and discuss everything later this week. Thank you again for all the love and encouragement. When I first explained the full story to Grandpa, why I had broken down so badly, his reaction was much stronger than I anticipated. He looked shocked and genuinely horrified. I told him everything, how I had basically become my sister's full-time caregiver on top of my own responsibilities, and how my dad's joke about college had pushed me over the edge. Grandpa was deeply upset, especially when he learned that my sister was supposed to be receiving professional care that she wasn't getting. He said many things I don't feel comfortable repeating, but the main point was that it wasn't right or safe for me to be in that role, especially given my sister's needs. He couldn't believe my parents had placed so much on me and had hidden so much from the rest of the family. He was particularly angry about the movie incident, calling it clear proof of how unfairly I was being treated. Grandpa is usually calm, so seeing him this furious was significant. He told me directly not to speak with my parents unless he was present, which was a huge relief. He said he would talk to them first, handle the situation, and be there for any future conversations. But it didn't stop with Grandpa. Over the following days, I heard from aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. They were all reaching out to check on me and were just as stunned as Grandpa. It turned out my parents had been telling the extended family that they had hired a professional caregiver for my sister, and they had even accepted money from relatives to cover those costs. But that caregiver never existed. Everyone was upset about being deceived, especially over something so important. This past week has been an emotional roller coaster, difficult, but also revealing in positive ways. Dealing with the drama involving my parents and discovering all these hidden details was overwhelming. Yet there has been an unexpected bright side. My extended family has stepped up in ways I never expected. Grandpa has been at the heart of it, trying to make up for what he calls lost time. He's been actively encouraging me to live like a teenager again, pushing me to spend time with friends or simply relax and do what I enjoy. It feels strange but wonderful. It's as if he's determined to help me recover parts of my life I had stopped noticing were missing. My aunts and uncles have also been incredible. They visited often, brought food, and spent time talking and truly listening. They're making a real effort to show they care and to ensure I don't feel isolated. It's overwhelming, but in the most positive sense. For the first time in years, I'm not defined as the sister or the caregiver, I'm just me, and that feels amazing. The conversation with my parents on Saturday night was a complete disaster. I entered hoping we might begin to repair things. Instead, everything fell apart even more. They admitted to several things that were so troubling I can't bring myself to write them here. But the worst part? They offered no apology at all. Instead, they doubled down, claiming I was essentially born to be my sister's caretaker. My dad actually said those words, that my whole purpose was to look after her. I couldn't hold back anymore. Everything I had learned, combined with the support from my extended family, came pouring out. I confronted them about all the lies, including the fake caregiver and the money they had taken. But they avoided responsibility and made excuses. By the end, the situation felt even more broken. I had gone in with a small hope of reconciliation, but I left feeling that possibility was completely destroyed. After that failed talk, I decided I was finished. I had a long discussion with Grandpa and my uncle last night, and we all agreed it was best that I don't return home. Today is the day I officially move in with Grandpa. It feels strange making such a major change, but it also feels correct. For the first time in a long while, I have some control over my own life. I've also decided I will leave the state for college after finishing high school. The idea of starting fresh somewhere new is exciting. My aunt has been wonderful throughout this. She told me she will now send the money directly to me, the money she used to give my dad for my sister's care. It's going to become my college fund instead. My parents have called a few times since that night, but not to apologize or say they miss me. They only asked when I planned to come back home. It's as if they still don't understand why I had to leave. I know this will be a huge adjustment, and I'm a little scared. But at the same time, I feel a heavy burden lifting. I'm finally choosing for myself, and there's real freedom in that. Today marks the beginning of something new. Deciding not to return to my parents' house was difficult, I won't pretend otherwise. There's an uneasy feeling in my stomach, but I believe it will ease with time. The support from the rest of my family has been incredible. Even after making this big decision, their love and encouragement make everything a bit easier to face. But the hard reality is that I've essentially lost my parents through all of this. That truth hurts deeply. It's a lot to come to terms with, and sometimes I find myself wishing things could have turned out differently. Yet through everything, I've realized something important. I don't hate my sister. The anger I directed at her was misplaced. She isn't responsible for the choices our parents made. I love her deeply, and blaming her for something beyond her control was unfair in so many ways. I hope that one day I can make things right with her. For now, though, leaving is what I need to do for my own well-being. It's about discovering who I am outside of this situation. It will be a journey, but I feel ready for it. Edit, thank you all so much. I wish I could reply to every comment, but my lunch break is short. I'll update tonight about how the move went. Until then, thank you. Your support has meant more to me than you can imagine. Moving out felt surreal. Grandpa and my uncle stayed with me through every step, helping me pack my belongings into boxes and bags. We made sure to take everything important to me, including documents like my birth certificate and social security card. It felt strangely formal, like I was gathering pieces of my past to begin a new chapter. My parents were mostly quiet during the process. Dad left with my sister shortly after I arrived, leaving only Mom to watch us pack. She didn't speak much, just stayed in the background. The atmosphere was awkward and tense. But as we were about to leave, she finally broke down in tears. She told me she loved me and that she would miss me. After so many days of silence, those words carried a different weight. I hugged her and said goodbye. It was one of the most difficult moments of my life. Now, sitting in my new room at Grandpa's house, I keep thinking about that moment. Did she truly mean it? After everything that happened, it's hard to be sure. But I want to believe she did. Right now, I'm choosing to focus on what lies ahead. Maybe with time, my parents and I can find a way to reconnect. I'm holding on to that hope.